Hello everybody, my name is Kara, and today I'm going to talk about book ratings, and specifically 5-star ratings and 5-star shame. So this is something I've been thinking about a lot as we get into these end of year reading wrap-ups and, reading goals for 2020 and everything. And this is something I've been thinking about for a while. Pretty much it's been bothering me since the end of last year because I have a lot of strong feelings about shaming people for what they read and how they enjoy things, and I've noticed some trends that are really starting to bother me. I actually had planned to do a video on my more general rating policies, but I got really fired up about this. And again, I wanted to time this so that as we're seeing all of these reading plan videos, I just want everyone to keep this in mind when they're seeing everyone talk about what they want to accomplish with their reading or change about their reading. Now, I think enjoyment in books does matter. I know there's a lot of diverse opinions about how we rate books and what we should take into consideration. I personally try to rate half on my enjoyment and half on objective merit, or at least as objective as you can be when you're talking about reading. That's the way that I feel communicates my feelings about a book most clearly and most completely and most fairly. That's just what I find most helpful. People obviously have different ways of viewing it. And as far as reading judgment, I think there is a component that is based on self-consciousness and we assume that other people are judging us, but I don't think that's all of it. I definitely think there is an element of reading shame and reading judgment in a lot of different areas of reading, but the one I'm going to be talking about today is I really do think there is this underlying assumption that if you rate things more negatively, you are a better reviewer. And the first thing I want to talk about is the different terms that we use, like critical reviewer. That's something I hear a lot, and I think one of the reasons that we have so much trouble with shaming people for enjoying things is I don't think we're using the word critical quite in the way it was intended, or I think that the most correct way, although again that's arguable. I think there's a tendency to equate being a critical reviewer with being a negative reviewer, because I think when we hear the word critical, we tend to think of it as a person-to-person conversation. If somebody is being critical of you, that means they're saying something that is hurtful or that doesn't make you feel good. Even if it's constructive criticism, it has this negative connotation to it. And when we're talking about books, I don't think that negative connotation should be there. To me, being a critical reviewer, it just means that you are taking in more objective story concerns rather than rating purely on enjoyment. And again, I'm not saying there's anything wrong with rating purely on enjoyment, but I just think that for a lot of people who hear the phrase critical reviewer, and I did this too for a long time, there's this assumption that to be a critical reviewer, you have to give out a lot of low ratings. That's just what it means. You can't be a critical reviewer and enjoy the majority of books you read. And I really don't think this is true. And I can specifically think of several booktubers who I've been watching and loving over the years who have said in kind of an offhand way that they're not a critical reviewer, and I was shocked. And the reason I realized later that I was so shocked is because I thought of them as a very thoughtful and good reviewer. And in my head, I had this connection between being a thoughtful reviewer and giving a lot of low-star ratings. And so when they said they don't give a lot of low-star ratings, I had this instinctive reaction of but you're a good reviewer. And those things are not mutually exclusive, and I think for a long time I was thinking that they were. And I think there's also a lot of discussion about if people only give out 4 and 5-star ratings, that's not super helpful for people watching channels and trying to get book recommendations, and I would agree with that. Obviously, a lot of people read primarily for themselves, for their own enjoyment or education or just personal experience, and then we choose to share that with other people. And that's kind of how BookTube works. And it's kind of if you're watching somebody and they only ever give 4 and 5-star reviews, it's I'm happy for you, but maybe this won't be helpful when it comes to my personal, trying to decide if I want to read a book. People's channels are not there solely for you to decide what you want to read, but I think that is one component to it. So I think it's reasonable that if you are watching somebody or thinking about watching somebody and they only ever give top tier reviews, it's you're really excited that they're enjoying all the things they're reading, but when it comes to your own personal use of reviews in order to determine what you might be interested in reading, maybe they won't be as helpful for you as some other channels. And that's something I totally get. I really, I feel the same way, I understand that, but I'm gonna throw out, I guess, a controversial opinion and say that if you never give 4 and 5-star reviews, I think that is equally as unhelpful when it comes to personally choosing books to read. Because if you're watching somebody and they never truly love anything that they read, to me, that makes it just as difficult to figure out how I would feel about a book as if they only love everything they read. And I think this kind of gets tricky because 3-star reviews in particular, there's a lot of division. Like some people consider them positive ones, some people think they're negative, some people think they're, you know, exactly in the middle. There's a lot of disagreement over how 3-star reviews should be interpreted. But overall, I think that if we're going to give people a hard time who only use the upper part of their rating scale, then we should give someone an equally hard time who only uses the lower part of their rating scale. And I'm not saying that we should give people a hard time. The point is that we shouldn't judge anybody for this, but it just seems a little unequal to me that we look down on people who only use the high ratings, but we consider people who only use the low ratings to be better reviewers and like better quality reviewers and readers. And one thing that I really remember, like at the end of last year, beginning of this year, again with all of those like end of year wrap up and goals and everything videos, I saw several people who were saying that their goal or like their like happy place for ratings and reviews and everything is they want their star ratings to look like a bell curve. And you know, as with all the things I'm talking about, that is a very valid way to approach your own reading personally. But for me, that sounds like a nightmare. Like, oh my god, I would hate it if the most common rating I gave was 3 stars. Because to me, I want the books I read to be better than mediocre. Like, there are so many things I'm excited about reading that if, on average, I just feel kind of like, shrug, you know, take it or leave it, that would be really upsetting to me. To me, that would communicate that I need to really look at the things that I am picking up and, you know, like make better choices about what I want to read. Like, I would hate for my reading statistics to look like a bell curve. When I looked at my Goodreads statistics for this year, the most common rating I gave is 4 stars. After that, it's 3 stars, and then the third most common was 5 stars. And that's what I'm happy with, because I want to really actively enjoy the majority of the things I pick up. And then, you know, you have quite a few mediocre ones as well. And my 5 stars are in my 3rd place rating. And I'm really happy about that. I think when we start channels or we start any kind of reviewing platform, there's a period of you become more critical of what you read, and so your ratings kind of start creeping downwards. But I think eventually you get to a point where that gets offset by you getting better about choosing things you'll enjoy. At least that's what I feel like has happened with me. Like, there's kind of that developmental period where you start thinking more critically or specifically about what you read and really honing in on things you like and things you don't like. And I think a lot of people, when they're in that phase, you end up rating things lower. And then as time goes on, you start getting better about what you're going to pick up. And I think then your ratings start going up a little bit. So I feel like over the last couple of years, my ratings have kind of equalized, where yes, I am being more critical than I was like 5 or 6 years ago, but I'm also getting really, really good at picking up things I will enjoy. I mean, obviously there's exceptions to that. I have quite a few 1, 2, 3-star books that I have complained about recently, so you guys know that I still pick up things I don't end up enjoying. But on balance, I think I am getting better about picking up things I'll love. And shouldn't that be our goal? Like, shouldn't that mean that you are a good reviewer if you are getting better about knowing your own tastes? I think it should. Anyway, so those are just a lot of thoughts I've been having about the like 5-star shame that we have. Like, I remember a few months ago reading a book that I was loving, and the whole time I was thinking about how to justify it when I reviewed it. And that makes me really sad. Like, I should have been able to just lose myself in a book and love it, rather than thinking about if people were not going to take me seriously because I enjoyed this book. And this kind of goes back to what I was saying at the beginning, where I think a lot of this is self-inflicted. Like, we assume that people are judging us. But if you guys have noticed some of the like review rating culture, I think there is definitely an overall trend of making people feel bad or feel less intelligent or less valuable or worthy as a reviewer because they don't give as many negative reviews or ratings. So to wrap this all up, I guess my bottom line is it is completely okay to want to rethink your system or to change your system because you are unhappy with the way you review books or you think you could do better. Like, I've seen a lot of people say that they want to become a more critical reviewer, like they want to think more about like objective considerations when they're reviewing books and not rate purely based on enjoyment. And I think that's great if you want to make a change about how you review books because you think it will better reflect your rating system or how you feel or how you think about books. Like, if you want to kind of expand the way that you review books, I think that is wonderful. I just hope that you guys don't do it because other people make you feel bad. Like, I hope you do it because you're excited about really tweaking the way that you do review books in a way that makes you happy and that makes you feel like really communicates your true thoughts and feelings about a book. Like, as long as you're happy with the way you review books and as long as people watching or reading your reviews know the way you review books, like, it's all fine. I also want to make it clear that I'm not trying to go the other direction and, you know, shame people who are very sparing with their 4 and 5-star reviews. obviously like everyone has their own system. Like you do you review in a way that makes sense to you and that you are happy with. This is more a response to kind of the underlying assumptions we have about people who use lower ratings or higher ratings, like people who have like an average rating on Goodreads that is really low, and it's like, oh, they must be an amazing reviewer because they gave most of the books they read 2 stars this year, like that kind of thing. So let me know if you guys have any thoughts on this topic. Let me know how you feel about this like 5-star review shame, like if that's something that you guys experience, because I have definitely experienced it. I think of myself as being a very critical reviewer, and I still feel that pressure to not love books the way that I want to, which is really sad. Like there are already so many ways that people shame other people for the way they read or the things they read, or that non-readers shame people who read for, like, and the fact that now we're supposed to feel ashamed of loving things, it just makes me really sad. So please let me know your guys' thoughts. Thank you so much for watching. I will see you soon with another video, and I hope you love the next book you read. Bye!